My number 10 is a little bit of a cheat. I bundled two games into one. I have gone for Roll for the Galaxy and kind of included its predecessor, Race for the Galaxy. However, between the two, I think Roll surpasses Race. I think Roll for the Galaxy takes all the brilliance of Race for the Galaxy and streamlines a few of the best mechanisms. I think it's very clever the way that the tile, one side is planet, the other side is development, and so you always have access to something that you need, and that planets are, by convention, access to more dice, whereas the developments are, by convention, modified rules. So, takes everything I like about it, does it better.
I haven't had a chance to play Race for the Galaxy, but I've played Roll a few times and enjoyed it, but it didn't have enough to keep me coming back to it. I found the dice rolling a little bit frustrating at times, although I did enjoy the tension between choosing planets and developments and kind of growing in that way.
I think for me, that's the beauty of it. It's a very tactical game rather than a strategic game, and always being able to assess what's on the table at any given point in time. So where did you go with your number 10?
So my number 10 was Wir sind das Volk.
Wow.
So I guess the most comparable game would be Twilight Struggle, but I ranked this one a little bit higher because for me the asymmetry of the conflict really shines through in this game. So this one's based post-World War II Germany with East Germany versus West Germany as the two players. So East Germany is trying to spread communism and West Germany is trying to stamp it out. What I love about the game is the asymmetry. So East Germany has very limited resources, but simply has to hang on for the rest of the game, while West Germany has to actively stamp out the communism and reduce East Germany's powers in order to win. And I think it creates a really interesting tension in the game, and also means that when you play it, depending which side you're on, you have different strategies that you have to employ.
I would liken it as a cross between Twilight Struggle and Stronghold.
Yeah. And yeah, as I said, it ranks more highly than Twilight Struggle for me just because that asymmetry really shines through and makes it a really push-pull game between the two.
I think you may have upset a lot of fans with that, but those are our number 10s. Number 9. With number 9, I've gone with probably my favorite negotiation game. Other games I like that involve negotiation are up here, but this is purely a negotiation game. Sheriff of Nottingham. On one level, it's purely about deception and bluffing. You're putting goods into a bag, and you're probably going to have to lie at some point about what you put in the bag. Sheriff will inspect it or not, etc. But where I think the game steps up a notch is through the negotiation. So you can lie quite blatantly, but then offer enough incentives to the sheriff to not look at the bag. And so you can either have a gameplay which is focused on balls to the wall bluffing, or you can have a game that is purely about those negotiations where everyone realizes, hey, I'm a little bit dodgy, but you can be a little bit dodgy too.
Yeah, I've played Sheriff of Nottingham a few times and enjoyed it, but I don't enjoy the social deduction and bluffing as much. So it's not a top game for me, but the thing I have loved about it when I played it is the immersiveness of the theme and the banter that it creates with the sheriff and the other players.
Excellent. But where did you go for your number 9?
So mine was Ponzi Scheme.
I do not know it.
So this was published recently by a Taiwanese designer called Jessie Lee. And it's all about managing your own Ponzi scheme. So you're investing in fraudulent companies and taking money from investors. The only way you'll pay off those loans to your first investors is by taking more loans. To pay off those loans, you need to take more loans, and so on in a downward spiral. The thing that's great about the game is you can also make clandestine trades with the other players. So you don't know how much people are buying and selling their industries for, but you have to figure it out as you go along. And that combined with managing the risk and making sure you have enough money for all your loans is really interesting.
I find it interesting that we have two games that are focused on negotiation for our number 9s, and those are our number 9s. My number 8 is a small little Uwe Rosenberg game. Now, of the few that Uwe Rosenberg has done as small 2-player games, this is the only one I would recommend. I've gone with Patchwork. Patchwork has elegance of design. Patchwork has not a large choice or a large breadth of strategy, to be fair, but I find what it does very, very well. You're either choosing one of the next 3 patches available and fitting it on your board, or passing. You have one choice, but those choices can have a bit of a knock-on effect. My partner actually got me a little thimble to replace the pawn, and it just was such a wonderful surprise, and I think it's a design choice that Uwe Rosenberg missed, to be honest.
Yeah. It's definitely a game that I love because of the spatial aspect and fitting things together, and having to manage both the time and your resources that are available is a really interesting push and pull that I like in the game.
Yeah, nice, cute little tensions.
Yeah.
So what did you do for your number 8?
So my number 8 is Above and Below.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is a really excellent, I guess, hybrid story and strategy game. So you start with a small village of 3 people who you can send out on missions to train other people to collect resources, and you can also explore deep underground caverns to get more real estate to expand your village into. And when you do that, you get to read a story or an adventure from a book and choose how you want to react to it. So similar to Tales of the Arabian Nights in that instance. But I find in this one, it's all about managing risk and kind of calculating what your abilities are and whether you want to push your luck when you're exploring.
I think if I was to choose between this one and Tales of Arabian Nights, I'd probably go this one. Yeah. I find my choices have more relevance to the outcome. And look how it's got that wonderful artwork that he always has.
Yeah, the art's absolutely beautiful. I like this game more for the strategy, but Arabian Nights I enjoy for just the experience of seeing what happens. But they're both very different games, despite the similarities.
So we've got a very differently contrasted number 8. Well, I've gone for a game which was originally designed as Battlestar Galactica Express. My choice is Dark Moon. Now, Dark Moon was built on the same core feel, but they went with a different mechanism around dice. So if you are one of the infected, so one of the hidden traitors, you're rolling behind a screen like everyone else, and you're submitting a die. Since the majority of the faces of each die is negative, the chances of you rolling a positive is minimal, but you're rolling several dice. So there's a number of different questions you're going to raise. Was that deliberate sabotage? Was it just simply a poor roll? And I find you get the tension of Battlestar Galactica, that paranoia, all in 75 minutes. So it takes a game I really love and then breaks it down to a manageable amount of time.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to play Dark Moon yet, but I have played Battlestar Galactica, and even though I enjoy the social deduction, I find it just goes on a bit too long for what it is. So games that can pack a similar experience into a shorter time frame are really good.
So what did you go with for your number 7?
So my number 7 is Glass Road.
Aha.
Yes, which is a strategy game by the same designer of Agricola, Fields of Arla, many other resource management games like that. But the reason I love Glass Road is it packs the combination of really heavy strategy with a really devious resource wheel that's hard to get your head around into a very short time frame. You can play it in 30 minutes with 2 players who know what they're doing. But it's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of depth in manipulating the resources that you have available to you and different strategies that you can pursue based on what buildings are available for purchase. So I find it's very different from game to game, and you always have to think about what the other player is trying to do and which roll cards you should select for the round. So there's a lot of things to think about.
Now look, this is not the first time Rosenberg has developed a game around this resource wheel idea. He did it with Ora et Labora, he did it with Fields of Arla, which you mentioned. But I think it was a very smart choice to effectively pare the game down to effectively just the resource wheel and a few bits and pieces around it. It took the purest part of the gameplay that I thought was the best part as well.
Yeah, and I love that it's all about the role selection and that resource wheel management and getting your head around how to best do that.
My number 6, one of the smaller games on the list. It is easily my most played game, but that's not surprising. A single game takes about 10 minutes. One Night Ultimate Werewolf and/or One Night Ultimate Vampire. one of, in my opinion, the best social deduction games there is. You are trying to figure out the roles, follow the clues, and it's one of those games that can either end in shouting or very obvious resolution. How about you? What do you think?
I can't stand regular werewolf at all. I hate being eliminated really early on the basis of no information too. But One Night Ultimate Werewolf never really grabbed me, and I think it's, even though I enjoy deduction games, I don't enjoy the social deduction and the bluffing that goes along with it. I much prefer games where it's logical deduction as opposed to reading other people and playing other people.
Look, I think this might be a case of where the group makes the game, because I do play with a bunch of people who know the logic of the game, and so they can deduce based on who claims and when and how to counterclaim, and so there's a very methodological approach to solving who's the werewolf. But there's still enough room to make plausible alibis and plausible counterclaims that I think is where the brilliance of this game lies. But now I want to hear about your number 6.
So mine is Tales of the Arabian Nights.
Okay.
So for people who don't know about it, it's, I guess, a storytelling experience rather than a game, because the goal for me is never to win. It's more to just see what happens and have fun with it.
Well, the game kind of plays you.
Yes. The basic idea is you're going on an adventure, you'll experience creatures and people, and you'll choose your reactions to them and read through this incredibly detailed storybook that's got 2,000 reactions in it or something like that. And what I love about it is, even though there's not really any strategy or even continuity between what you choose and what happens, I just enjoy the stories and the experiences of the game.
See, I was kind of always thrown by Tales of the Arabian Nights. Those experiences were never quite as sensible as I'd like. I'd do something according to what I would expect to be story logic, and the outcomes just were disjointed from that. And it kind of set a bad taste in my mouth.
I think for me, I approach it with the idea of having fun and seeing what happens rather than trying to aim for a particular goal. Because if you do that, it's not going to happen.
Well, I've learned to never honour the local customs. You'll just end up buried alive, so.
Yes, it never ends well.